fight, not necessarily to wipe them out. You never expected to do that. But what about generally in fighting the Iraqis? Is there some decision to reduce casualties, or what is the goal to?
Oh no, the goal of the aim of the exercise is to liberate Kuwait to with the minimum loss on our side. Always has been, and that's why this campaign has gone on for so long, and why it will continue to go on so long. I mean, the first thoughts are our side, but the other side of the coin is we're also not out, and it's been stated many times before, to totally destroy the Iraqi military machine either. What we have and what our commanders are looking for is the occasion when his military capability has been reduced sufficiently for us to confidently liberate Kuwait in a very short time scale. And as soon as that condition occurs, and if the Iraqi government have still not seen the futility of what they're doing, then we will be forced to launch the land offensive. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for that. Thank you.
Up next, more on the status of the Persian Gulf War as we bring you today's briefing by Saudi military officials. The briefing took place at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, which was 6:30 p.m. in Riyadh.
In air activity, 7 Iraqi MiG-21 aircraft were detected flying toward Iran. U.S. Air Force F-15s gave chase and shot down 4 of the Iraqi MiGs. The other 3 were able to land in Iran. A U.S. Cobra helicopter attacked an Iraqi patrol along the Saudi-Kuwaiti border today. No report is available at this time to the enemy casualties, and there were no U.S. casualties. In naval operations, at 9:30 p.m. last night, the enemy attempted to sneak into the town of Khafji again, this time from the sea. This incursion led to an exchange of fire when Saudi Navy Marines engaged the enemy. The enemy forced withdrawal. 1 Iraqi boat was sunk, and the other 2 escaped. Details of this operation will follow later. Saudi pilots have flown 3,200 sorties of the coalition total of 47,000 sorties. To conclude today's statement, we'd like to repeat the prisoners of war status. Yesterday, with the voluntary surrender of 23 Iraqi soldiers, the total of enemy prisoners of war count is now over 885 since the start of Operation Desert Storm. A large number of the EPW have stated that the primary reason for the voluntary surrender was the invitation extended by His Royal Highness the Commander of Joint Forces in the theater of operation. This invitation is in the form of leaflets which state that those who surrender will receive protection, good care, Arab hospitality, and they will be returned to their homeland at the end of this hostility. I am happy to show you some of these leaflets designed by the Joint Forces Command. There are 25 different designs. 25 million leaflets have been printed, and so far 14 million have been distributed. For those interested, I have copies of these leaflets, and my colleagues will be pleased to translate the Arabic message into English. We'll be pleased now to answer your questions.
Do you have anything further on the men who were arrested after the shooting incident in Jeddah?
Before coming down here, I called the Ministry of Interior Liaison Office in the Joint Command, and I got no new information on this matter.
I wonder if you could give us more information on the attempt to sneak into Khafji. How far were they from the coast? How do you know they were going to Khafji?
Let me
How many were there?
Commander Abdurrahman. I don't know how far they were from the coast.
Well, what we had last night is artillery fire coming from the sea. We believe it's 3 boats of the Sawari 4 type, which is designed for this kind of attacks. And Sawari 4. It's Sawari 4. And one of them was sunk, the other 2 just flew away. That's all what we have for the time being.
A follow on that?
Yes, sir.
Sir, we've been told repeatedly by briefers that the Saudi Navy doesn't exist anymore, that they can't operate. Sorry, the Iraqi Navy doesn't exist anymore, and certainly to penetrate down the coast and attack at the coast at Khafji, how'd they get that far?
Well, how they do now? Now they work because they have small boats and they hide themselves behind the oil rigs, you know. So this is a method they are using now. Yes, sir.
Could you tell me, sir, how many forces would have been on those 3 boats? And can you describe the boat? What's its length and what kind of weapon it would have?
Yes, it's a small boat actually. It's around 12 meters actually, 12 meters by 5, and it's Iraqi-made type of thing. It carries around 20 soldiers.
What kind of a weapon, Commander?
Small guns.
What sort of weapon?
Small guns, small.
Machine guns or
You could
what?
say machine gun, yes. They use.
50 caliber, 20
It
millimeter?
would be 20 millimeters. Yes, sir.
Commander, when they approach, they use rigs. When they escape, do they also use rigs, which of course
Yes,
are Saudi
they
rigs,
do.
which you would not want to basically blow up?
That's where they go always.
Them.
They hide behind the oil rigs, you know, and it's too difficult to find them sometimes, unless you go after them, you know.
Does the fear of destroying one of your own national rigs also play a part in?
No, they go into their area, which is the Kuwaiti area, actually.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Not have any impact on the navigation of the waters around there? We understood that some people have said that the oil is in some places 2 inches thick. And it's like a crust of oil or like a skin of oil on the water.
This question to the commander before he goes back to his seat. Let's take some other questions if you don't mind, and we delay the answer to your question. Can we do that? Thank you.
When was the distribution of the leaflet? Was it before the eruption of the desert storm or after that?
I have no exact details on the time, but we are mostly here talking about desert storm operation.
How did you do that?
Well, normally the leaflets are distributed by different means, like from airplanes or even by artillery or multi-rocket launchers.
So as you get more and more Iraqi P.O.W.s, prisoners of war, there must be a number of stories that they're giving you as to the conditions that they are being subjected to. I would imagine that you have numerous stories. Can you share any of these with us?
If there are any stories that we can share with you, we'll be very pleased. The only major subject that they voluntarily mentioned that they suffer from the shortage of food and water. Some of them are not believing in what he's doing. They don't have that much confidence in the command, low morale, and those major items, but no specific stories. Yes, sir.
The 4 MiG-21s that were downed by USAF F-15s, we've heard a lot about and understand a lot of the difficulties in detecting these aircraft when they just do this short hop across the border. Have you any more information on the engagement and why on this occasion USAF F-15s were able to catch them?
Well, I'm sure you will have more details on the American briefing at 7:30, but let me invite Colonel Aid if he can elaborate on this a little bit.
I'm sorry, the only thing I could say is we have to leave the subject of the detail of how it happens and when it happens and what are the circumstances and why it happened today. So I rather leave the answer, even though I'm aware of the answer, but I leave it to my counterpart to explain to you.
Colonel, on the numbers of the new voluntary surrenders, you said 17 and...
17 and 6, that total 23.
And you said
but they are not in Saudi custody. They are 17 at the U.S. and 6 at the Egyptian custody. So we do not count them as of our figures being in Saudi custody.
The 6 that are in the Egyptian custody that you mentioned, earlier today the Americans said that they got 6 voluntary courses. Are these the same ones, and how did they end up, or what?
Yes, sir. They are included in the number.
But in the 17 rather than the 6?
In the 17, yes, sir.
P.O.W.s that are coming across, have any of them carried these leaflets with them so that you know which leaflets are working better than others?
I need to carry your question for tomorrow and try to answer it for you. Yes, sir.
I've heard the occasional bump in the night, and last night I saw what we called the bomb squad. Police escort, red sirens with a bomb disposal unit. Have there been bomb attacks in Riyadh, or have there been reports of explosions or any terrorist plots foiled here?
None at all. At least not at all that I am aware of.
Well, this could be just a drill then, last night.
It could be.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Tell me, Colonel, the EPWs which have come across, are any of them being used to broadcast any messages back to Iraq to try and convince their fellow comrades to also quit?
Not to my knowledge, no.
As a supplementary, in addition to the leaflets, could you tell us whether there's any type of radio broadcasts originating from here to try and convince?
I will also carry this question along with our friends here and try to report. We'll take 2 more questions, please.
When these EPWs come across, are any of them carrying weapons? And if so, what are they carrying when they come across? What? What do they have with them?
Who they surrender? Well, the 6 who gave themselves up to the Egyptian force, they brought their weapons with them. They were carrying 2 RPGs and 2 machine guns. That's the only information I have regarding this matter. We'll take the last question, please.
A couple of days ago, you mentioned that most of the EPW carry their gas mask with them. Now, so far, do you have any? I wonder, do you have any information from EPW? They are going to prepare for the chemical weapon.
I have no information in that matter if they are planning to do that or not. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Colonel.
You're welcome.
Up next, we continue our coverage of today's Riyadh briefings as we bring you the remarks of U.S. military officials. The briefing began this morning at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time, which was 7:30 p.m. in Riyadh.
Good day. As you all know, this is the last day of the 3rd week of Operation Desert Storm. Air operations continue, 24-hour operations, as we have briefed before. Over 2,500 sorties, and that adds up to 49,000 total sorties. We continue to interdict his lines of communication to isolate the KTO. His roads, his bridges, his railways have been struck and restruck. At least 42 bridges have been struck and apparently have suffered major damage. We calculate that probably at least 70% of his lines of communication have been in some way disrupted. We continue to hit the Republican Guard, around-the-clock type attacks. He gets little sleep both day and night. We're using our superior night attack type aircraft, the F-15 Echo, the F-16 Lantern, and the A-6E. And not to forget the B-52s, probably hitting his positions at least every 3 or 4 hours around the clock.